Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Fiddle and we make stuff here. Today's project is a built-in canopy bay window bed. Don't forget to follow the link in the description because it will lead you to a free printable pattern that you can use to make this bed for yourself. And if you do decide to make this, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to see it. To start making a bed, we're going to need 4 chopsticks, our pattern, and a cutting tool. Using the bottom face side length, or where the arrow is pointing, to measure how long your sticks need to be. I like to keep my chopsticks together while I cut the length and then cut them apart so that way they are exactly the same length. For the next part, I had the problem of my wood wasn't long enough to make the pieces that I needed. My solution was to trace the pattern onto 2 separate pieces of the wood with the joining being right in the center. Then I glued a support piece in the center. I didn't put it towards the ends because there's going to be the canopy portion that has to go inside of there as well. I wanted to make sure that I had clearance for it on both sides. These paper binder clips come in really handy if you don't have a type of jig or anything to hold your pieces together. Or if you're lucky enough, your pieces were big enough and you didn't have to do that stuff at all. And remember that the option to make this out of other things is always there. You don't have to make it out of wood. Once you have the bed base cut out, and if you have to glue it together, glued together, you can add the legs. Some things to be mindful while you're gluing your legs down is 1, you should probably give yourself some guidelines, which I did not do, and 2, you should pay attention to the gap between the wall and the space between the drawers. And also, if you would like any overhang, now is the time to decide how much. I tried something new and used aliens and super glue at the same time instead of super glue and baking soda. It worked well and I didn't have to worry about the buildup of the baking soda. For the next part, we're going to cut out the bottom face plate. I found it easier to cut it in half long ways, then cut out the drawer holes, than it is to try to cut them out of the solid piece of wood. Even with a Dremel, it would be kind of difficult to get in there. Okay, when you go to sand, just sand what you cut out for the drawer. Don't sand where you cut them in half. You want to keep that raw because you'll be able to fit the pieces back together better. Speaking of which, that's the next step. I did this the same way I did for the canopy top and the bed base by gluing them together at the seams and then adding a support piece in the center. Before we add this piece to the bed itself, we need to find out how big we're going to be able to make our drawers and then make the pattern for them. You'll need the cutout drawer space from the pattern. This piece tells us how tall the sides of our drawers need to be and how wide the bottom will be. You will also need the front piece itself so you can mark where the drawer opening is on your bottom piece. Now take your drawer pattern and trace it in between your lines that you just made. If that is all the deeper that you would like your drawers, then all you have to do is really trace that piece itself. I wanted to make my drawers as deep as I could, and I'm sitting in the squeaky chair. But we are limited on the space that we can use because of the acute angle. Using the drawer cutout as the guide, turn it on its side and line it up with where your line was before, all the way off of your wood. This will give you the furthest point that you can end the bottom of your drawer. For the opposite side, follow the pattern all the way to the end. Then turn it one more time and connect your lines. This is the biggest you will be able to make the base of your drawer. Those words were hard. Anyways, measure out the shape that you just made, and that will give you the size of the base of the drawer, and you can cut it out of cardstock because it's a lot better to deal with than wood is for something small like this. You would just need to adjust the length. There are 3 drawers in all, so you would need 6 sides and 3 backs. I've already provided the front face and detail for you on the pattern. Now we're ready to build our drawers. I think one of the things that makes making drawers so hard is that you can't test fit while you're building them, that you have to wait until they're dry and hope that you can fix it if it's not right without taking it apart. And I always expect to trim them down somewhere. I try to make working doors and drawers wherever I can, 1 because it's more practice, and 2, I just love the ability of actually being able to use them, and it makes the pieces more exciting. Before we put the front face on the drawer, we can put the cardstock piece on first. This just gives a little bit more of a detail that'll show through later when we do painting. Now we can glue on the bottom front. Yay, finally! Set it aside to dry, and we're going to turn our attention to the canopy top. For this, you'll need to measure the 3 remaining sides up to the corner cut off. We're measuring all 3 sides individually instead of just one side and the back because there could be variations in length. For the width, you can use the front top as a guide. Once you have all your pieces measured and cut, then draw a line down the center of them. This will be your glue line so you're not going askew. Now we can glue all of our pieces down. For the little gap that's left, you can glue a piece on the inside. I glued mine right on the edge of it, and that made it too wide and it wouldn't fit in my space anymore. So just be mindful of that. After I used super glue, I went over it really well with tacky glue and made sure to get into the creases to make it a little bit sturdier. Next, give everything a good sanding. You'll need some thin wire like speaker wire and a pair of round-nosed pliers. We're going to start by holding the end of the wire up against the pliers with our thumb. Then, using our other hand, wrap it around the plier prong. Once you have it there, pinch it really tight with the pliers, in the square part, not up in between the prongs. Then, while holding it tight, go back in between the prongs and wrap it around the other one, coming right back down to your thumb. Bring the 2 ends together to a point, twist the wires, and then back the pliers out, and you should have a heart shape. I made around 10 of these little guys and one big one. The little ones in between and on the corners of the drawers, and the big one for the canopy top. Once you have all of your shapes ready, you can glue them down. I did mine step by step, starting with the heart, and then I added more details as I went, gluing along the way. I wanted to put swirls and loop-dees in, but anytime I tried it just didn't look right, so I just went with some curved lines and a few little leaf shapes. When I had all the wire where I wanted it, I took extra diamond dots that I had from a painting a long time ago and used them in certain spots here and there. And because my hand was in the way, you couldn't see what I was doing at all, so I just thought I'd show you where I put them in the end. After looking at how nice the top was, I decided that the bottom really needed something, so I added the extra hearts and the little leafy thingies, though I should have checked my drawer size because one of them was just a little bit too close and the drawer overlaps just a touch. Now we are ready to paint. I went with 3 different colors, pale blue, pink, and white, and quite honestly, this was because I was trying to coordinate the color of supplies that I had on hand, from wallpaper, fabric, and paint. And I figured since I already have a baby boy's room, I might as well do a little girl's room. But I will say that painting in this style has a lot of sanding. Now we are ready to add the canopy fabric. I had a swimwear t-shirt thing that I cut a piece off of, and I wove it in and out of a skewer and cut it up the center for the front piece. For the sides, I left them as individual panels, but if you wanted to cut them up the center, you could. If you would like to be able to move your curtain along the rod, then you only need to glue them at the very ends. If you're not worried about that, then you can glue them all along the bar. Since I wanted mine to be able to move, I glued it at the ends using super glue and baking soda. Now we are ready for the posts. I attached mine way too early and had to keep reattaching them through the process. It'll save you the headache if you just wait until the end. Not to mention you can compare it to where your curtain is hanging so you can have clearance. We are ready to make the mattress now. For this, you need to trace the pattern labeled bed base on your choice of foam. Mine was a little too thin. I traced it out 3 times to make it thick enough to look like a mattress. Once I had them all cut out, I made sure to check how thick they were, so I knew how wide to make the strip for the side of the mattress fabric. Mine was around an inch thick, so I cut just a smidge over an inch for seam allowance. And it will also have to be long enough to wrap all the way around your fabric, with a little bit of a hem for the opening where we're going to insert the mattress. Trace out the same pattern piece that you did for the mattress foam twice so that way you have both sides. Then stitch them all together, leaving an opening at the center back for the mattress. And unfortunately, I don't have footage of me flipping the fabric around and stuffing it, so we'll move on to the blanket. For it, I used the canopy top pattern and added an inch around all the sides, but leaving the corners open so the post would have a place to be and not wrinkle up the blanket. Then I stitched it together and flipped it right side out. Stitched it closed, and we are finally finished. If you've made it this far, thank you for being here. Please consider liking and subscribing. Thank you, Ginger, and I'll see you next time.